First, I should ask, are there questions remaining?
It's not a question, it's a request.
Mhm.
I've been trying to attend, but battling this cold. And I was wondering if you'd be so kind, forgive me for asking, if you could just repeat quickly those 5 points so I can
Mm,
write them down. Sorry.
okay, sure,
A quick
sure.
recap. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So the first one is making generating your motivation in the morning so
Right.
that you make your life meaningful.
Okay. Motivation.
The second one is called the white seed, and it refers to accumulating merit and purifying negative karma.
Merit. Okay.
And by the way, the prayers we do at the beginning of the session each day with the 7-limb prayer and all, those are prayers that help to do that. The third one is called the force of destruction, meaning to destroy the self-centered thought and the self-grasping ignorance.
Okay, force of destruction.
The fourth is aspirations for the path.
Aspirations for the path. Okay.
And the fifth is familiarity or acquaintance. Yeah, familiarity is good. When we become very attached to our thoughts and we think, everything I think is true, everybody should believe what I believe, I have the one and only truth. Okay, that becomes self-centered. Okay, now giving up self-centeredness does not mean that we just say, well, whatever belief there is, it's okay, it doesn't matter. No, we can have our beliefs, and it's what we're getting at is the need to analyze and use discriminating wisdom when we figure out what we believe. And then we know what we believe, but we aren't clinging to our beliefs with some kind of ego identity. And we accept that there's different beliefs. Okay. If we cling to our beliefs with ego, with self-centeredness, then we're saying, mine are the one and only correct beliefs. And that brings a lot of problems in the world. Lots of people, historically, how many wars have been fought over beliefs, especially religious beliefs? Yeah, and that happens because people develop an ego identity about their religion or their nationality or whatever it is, their political beliefs, and we cling to them in a self-centered way, and that is what creates war and conflict. So the solution is just to say, well, nothing's right, nothing's wrong. No, that's rather stupid, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, when we look, there's a pandemic. Let's use our reason here to examine, should we take the vaccine or not? And when there's data that proves that it protects people from illness, then it makes sense to take the vaccine. Yeah. So we can have that belief. It's backed up by research, but we don't go and push it on everybody and call them names if they don't want to take the vaccine. Okay. Are you getting what I mean? We can still have beliefs and ideas, but we just don't try and force things on other people. Yeah. We may encourage them. That's fine. Encouraging people, trying to influence people. Yeah, that's fine. But it's when we force that then conflict comes. I'd like to go through the last 2 points of the 5 forces, but on my website, tuptenchildren.org, there's a whole section on the prison work we do, with stories and things like that from the inmates and pictures and drawings. And I really want to encourage the people who are doing prison work. It's very, very valuable, extremely helpful to the people who are incarcerated. So please keep doing it. Let's go to point. The 4th point is aspirations for the path. And so here what we do is we're really dedicating the merit of our practices of accumulating merit and purification, our practices of hearing the teachings, thinking about them, meditating on them, our practices of contemplating bodhicitta and generating it, contemplating the teachings on wisdom, trying to understand them more and more. So here, this covers like the prayers that we do at the end of the session, where we're, especially the second one, where we're dedicating, may the bodhicitta that we have arisen, may it not decline but increase. Yeah. And may the bodhicitta that we have not yet generated, may we generate it and then expand it. So these kinds of aspirations and dedications. And then it also involves rejoicing at the merit we and others create. Yeah, so not just like at the end of the session, rejoicing at our own merit, but thinking everybody who's been listening and thinking about the teachings today has been creating merit. And then thinking of all the good deeds that people throughout the world do to help each other. Yeah, so often all we do is hear about the negative things and think about the negative things, but there's so much good that is happening in the world too. And we need to talk about that and put some of that in the news. Yeah. I remember His Holiness Dalai Lama one time, he was giving a talk, and this topic came up, and he turned to all the journalists and news media people in the audience, and he said, you people just report the bad things that happen. Yeah, that what you report is, how many people, how many homicides there are, or how many, how people harm each other. But he said, there's so much going on good in the world. How many people, look at all the work the teachers are doing today. Yeah, teaching little children, all the good work that the people in the medical field are doing, helping us when we're sick. People in all sorts of work. Yeah. Even, I think it's very important to rejoice in the work of the garbage collectors. My goodness, where would we all be without the kindness of the garbage collectors? Yeah. So, jobs like this, the people who work on the road, sometimes we just take these people for granted, but our life depends on them. Yeah. The people who stock the groceries in the grocery store. Yeah. So all these people to really rejoice at their good deeds and practice seeing the goodness in others and seeing the goodness in the world. Okay. And if we do that, it really helps to make our own mind happy. Yeah, because if you just read the news, what they've discovered in the media is the more you tell the bad news and make people afraid, the more they click on those websites. Yeah. So creating fear in people gets more clicks and they make more money. So we have to really decide how we want to relate to the internet and even publicity and magazines and so on. And when they're trying to spread attachment and greed, when they're spreading fear, then just don't read those things, don't look at them. Really be very particular about what you expose yourself to. And then, when you see the goodness in the people around you, celebrate that, rejoice about that in your mind, and comment to the people who are doing well in society. Okay, so right now where I live, we don't have garbage collectors because we're in the countryside. But when I lived in the city, I used to thank the garbage collectors because I once was in a major city when the garbage collectors were on strike. And then you realize how dependent you are and how important these people's work is. When we drive and there's people repairing the roads, sometimes you have to stop, because thank the people who are doing the road work. Thank the people who take your orders at restaurants. Thank the people in the grocery stores. It really can make a very big difference, I think, if we're polite and friendly to other people, even they're strangers. It makes a big difference. I had a friend who his job was the, what do they call it? The public service department in Amazon. In other words, the complaint department. Okay, customer service. That's what they call it. So all the people who were unhappy with what Amazon sent them, they called him. And, so all day long he's listening, you sent the wrong thing here and you did the wrong thing here and it arrived damaged and I want a different one. And all he heard all day was complaints. But he said, every once in a while people would, and because he was doing his best really to help these people get what they want. And he was limited by, what his boss told him to do. But he said sometimes people would call and they would just be so nice and say, I realize this isn't your fault that they sent the wrong thing, but please, can you help me? And they were very appreciative. And he said that made such a big difference in his day, just people being polite and not venting their anger on him because they didn't get what they ordered from Amazon. Okay, so think, interactions like this. Yeah, when you have to deal with people at the airlines trying to change your ticket with an airlines. Sometimes that one can be a big hassle. But, we try and be nice to those people and they really appreciate it. And if we are, they will help us. They will definitely help us. Okay, so that's the prayers of aspiration. This is why yesterday and again today, we will be doing the King of Prayers, because that is a very broad and expansive prayer of aspiration. And if you think about it as you're reading it, like I said yesterday, your mind really expands because you get an idea of, when you become a bodhisattva, the kind of things that you can do to be of benefit. Yeah. And so when you generate all these aspirations, just, may I have a mind that is open and unprejudiced. May I have a mind that is free of ruminating thoughts so that my heart is open and I can be kind to others. Yeah. May I be able to understand the Dharma well and integrate it in my life. So you can think of the qualities that you want to develop, and then aspire to generate them, and then learn what are the causes to develop those qualities, and practice those causes. Do those practices yourself. Yeah. And this is very spiritually and psychologically uplifting, because when we make these kind of aspirations, we're steering our mind in a really wonderful direction, and we're seeing our potential. Yeah. And when we see our potential, that really energizes us. Yeah. When all we think about is, oh, this problem and that problem, then our mind gets depressed. But when we really think of this incredible human potential, when you really think about it, that we have the potential to become a fully awakened Buddha. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, that we have the potential to, have impartial love and compassion for every single living being. We have the potential to even, when we have high levels of practice, manifest many bodies that go out and benefit others. Yeah, we have the potential to directly experience the ultimate nature of reality. So when we think about all these things, then wow, it's like so many eyes and doors open in our life to doing good, and to also seeing the good that there is in the world. Okay, so lots of prayers of aspiration. And then the fifth one is familiarity, or acquaintance. In other words, we want to familiarize, habituate our mind with all these practices that we have talked about this weekend. Yeah. So not just listening to them and forgetting them, not just taking notes and then putting the notebook high up in the cupboard, or closing the file in your iPad and never looking at it again, but really going back and thinking about these things, studying them more and more, reading about them, going to more teachings, and then especially in our daily meditation practice, thinking about these things, practicing in our mind to think like these bodhisattvas think. Yeah. What would it be like to forgive all the people that have harmed you? Just spend some time in your meditation. What would that feel like to just put the anger and resentment down? Whoa, wouldn't that feel good? And then you start, contemplating all the reasons that will let you cut the grudge holding and resentment and anger. Yeah. And then as you do so, you feel your mind change. So you have to do these practices repeatedly. Yeah. You imagine when you notice your mind being quite self-centered, you imagine what would it feel like to, just ignore that self-centered mind and do something that benefits others instead. What would it feel like just to ignore the mind that says, yo, 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 me, and think about others? Okay. So we practice that in our meditation. If you, some people asked about antidotes for anger. You'll read them in the books or hear them in teachings. Then when you go home, practice them. Take out a situation that has happened to you in the past and practice thinking like the Buddha's teachings tell us to think about those situations. And it will involve a shift in your mind. And sometimes at the beginning, making that shift is difficult, but you keep doing it. You start out just even pretending to do it. And then gradually you can actually do it. Like the one of rejoicing instead of feeling jealous of somebody. Yeah. To be able to, at first, somebody has an opportunity you don't have, or somebody gets something you don't have, or they're better than you. And our mind is just burning with jealousy, It's awful. And jealousy is so painful. Oh my goodness, it's so painful. So if we realize, oh, jealousy is painful, I want to practice the antidote. The antidote is rejoicing. And then your mind goes, oh, I don't want to rejoice because I'm jealous. I should have that good quality. I should have that opportunity, not that person. And so we practice just, okay, what happens if I just try and shift my mind a little bit here and try to just be happy for that other person? And remember all the Christmas cards that you send out saying, may everybody live in peace and happiness. May everybody live in harmony. So here's this person, they have some happiness. I didn't even have to lift my finger to make it happen. At least I can shift my mind and rejoice that they have the happiness rather than feeling jealous of them. Okay, so you practice this, you coax your mind. You imagine what it would be like. And then slowly, you begin to actually change how your mind thinks. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if we familiarize ourselves with the practices, if we familiarize ourselves with a higher meaning and purpose in life, in other words, the purpose and meaning of our life isn't just having pleasure and getting what we want. Now you may say, what's wrong with that? Well, nothing's wrong with that. People want pleasure. We want to get what we want. We want happiness. Okay. But what happens is when we get attached to those things and we think they're the meaning of our entire life, and then that's all we focus on our life is getting what we want. And in the process of getting what we want, we harm other people. We say mean things or do mean things to other people. Okay, this is where the problem comes in. And so, hurting other people is to get what we want is not the purpose of our life. In fact, it destroys the meaning of our life. So if our mind starts to go in that direction, then really shift it. And, the meaning of my life is taming my mind. Purifying my mind of these afflictions. Purifying, releasing the self-centered thought, broadening my mind to think of the situation of other people and to recognize how dependent I am for everything I have in my life. Recognizing their kindness towards me, even if their kindness isn't for me in particular, by doing whatever job they do in society, I benefit. Okay, so thinking about these things repeatedly, familiarizing our mind. In Buddhism, it's called planting seeds. So we plant the seeds of optimistic thinking, of virtuous emotions. We plant these in our mind, and then we water them by repeatedly thinking about them again and again. And then this really will have, if we do it a lot and repeatedly, it will have a long-term, really beneficial effect on our own mind, on our relationships with other people, on advancing on the spiritual path. Okay, so the power of familiarization, very important. Okay. So here you can see how these five forces fit together. Yeah, we motivate in the morning. Yeah, then throughout the day, we try and purify, accumulate merit, apply the Dharma teachings. Yeah, during the day, then we also note when the self-centered thought arises, and we try and contemplate its defects and the benefits of cherishing others, the advantages of cherishing others. Yeah, so it's very important, specifically in when you do that. Don't get mad at yourself when you see that you're being self-centered. Don't fall into criticizing. Oh, look what a horrible Dharma practitioner I am. Look how selfish I am. Oh, I'm horrible. Okay. That is self-centeredness itself. Yeah. Blaming ourselves, making ourselves into the worst one in the world, that is a self-centered thought. Yeah, I'm worse than everybody else. I'm more important because I'm inferior to everybody else. That way of thinking is not correct. Okay. And I say that because if we've grown up in a Judeo-Christian culture, there's a very strong tendency, depending on how we were raised and what religion we were in and everything, there can be a strong tendency to feel guilty and to think that if I feel guilty, I am somehow atoning for my negative actions. Okay, kind of like the more I punish myself by telling myself how awful I am, the more I'm purifying. So we may have that tendency according to how we were raised. But in Buddhism, that is not a correct practice. In fact, it's an incorrect practice. Yeah. We are not the worst ones in the world. I'm very sorry to disappoint you. Not everything wrong in the world is due to you. You know, you really aren't so important that everything goes wrong because of you. You know, come on. When we get into guilt, that's what we say to ourselves. I am so powerful. I can make everything go wrong. Come on. That's rubbish. There's a big difference between regret and guilt. Yeah. Regret, we just see, like, you know, if we're acting in a self-centered way, it's like, you know, I really don't want to do this. This isn't going to bring anything good for me or for others. And I want to really spend my life being of benefit to others in even small ways that I can contribute some happiness and encouragement to others. That's how I want to spend my life. And so you think like that, and then, you know, you just say the self-centered thought is useless. And you turn away from that. You don't need to beat yourself up for being self-centered. Okay. You don't need to try and punish yourself by feeling guilty. Yeah. In Buddhism, yeah, you'll note in the purification practices in Buddhism, yeah, how do we purify? Okay, well, there's regret, developing a different attitude towards whoever we harmed, making an aspiration not to do the same negative action again. And then for the remedial behavior, for example, when you do the Buddha practice, all this light, this blissful light, you imagine coming from the Buddha into you, filling your whole body and mind. And that blissful light purifies you. Look, in Buddhism, what is it that purifies you? This blissful light that is the nature of wisdom and compassion. Yeah, it's not guilt and self-hatred that purifies you. It's the blissful light of wisdom and compassion in which the Buddha is reaffirming our potential and our ability to change. That's what purifies us. Okay, so this is very important to remember. And then we'll see as we familiarize that everything becomes easier. Yeah? Often when we start practicing the Dharma, we see some really important changes in ourselves right away. But then after a while, we just start feeling, I'm doing these practices, but nothing is really changing. Okay. In other words, we want quick, cheap, and easy change. Yeah, I want my anger to go away like this. That's not going to happen. Okay. So what His Holiness Dalai Lama says is don't look back how you were last week or last month. Yeah. Look back a couple of years. What were you like a couple of years ago? How are you different now? And that's when you'll begin to see the effects of your practice. Don't compare it to how you were even 6 months ago. Yeah, we have to look over a period of time, and then we can really see the changes that our Dharma practice has brought about. And then when you see those changes, rejoice. Remember, pat yourself on the back. Okay, so I actually did those last two very quickly. Let's just see if there's any questions about that right now.
I have a hard time even thinking of the fourth force of celebrating the virtues. It's hard to listen to you, Venerable, talk about them. Like there's been some loss in my life this past year, and it's just difficult to really integrate that into my life of appreciation. And I feel like also it's true that my parents are Roman Catholic, and yeah, and the holidays are coming up. It feels like a lot of my Buddhist practice would circle around more of the purifying practices than the appreciation, rejoicing practices.
Mm-hmm. So is what you're asking about how to deal with loss and how to keep a positive mind when there's loss? Can you clarify the question a little for me?
It was even hard for me to listen to you, Venerable, speak about about rejoicing in merit. Yes, there's been a lot of loss in my life, and there's a lot of loss around my mother, and she lost her mother, and I lost my partner. And thank you.
Okay. Okay. So when there's loss, yeah, what's happening is we're being confronted with the reality in which we live. And part of our wrong conception mind thinks that everything good should last forever. We have this expectation in ourselves. I think looking around is everybody, we expect that what is good in our life will just continue being the way it is. Yeah. We expect that we will live forever and other people will live forever. We expect that people won't move away to other places and that we won't lose touch with friends. So our mind has this false expectation. And then when change happens, and specifically change that we don't like, that we didn't initiate, yeah, then our mind gets very upset. How could this possibly happen? My relationship was supposed to last forever. My family members who I care about are supposed to live forever. And then we say, but I know that they can't. Yeah, that everything that comes together is going to separate. And this is just the nature in which we live. It's not bad. It's not punishment. It doesn't mean we did anything wrong. It just means that just the nature of things is that they change. Okay. I mean, just you even start on a microscopic level, on all the electrons are buzzing around the nucleus of the atom. They're changing every nanosecond. The cells in our body, yeah, every 7 years, we have completely new cells in our body. All the old ones have, they died off and new ones replaced them. So this whole thing of change is the air that we breathe. It's what we live in. So we have to really practice accepting change. Of course, the change we want to happen is easy to accept, and we push that change to happen. But the change we don't want to happen, there's a grieving process that we go through. And grief, I think, means just accustomizing ourselves, getting used to the change that we didn't want. Okay. Now, when that happens, that the change we didn't want, there's a feeling of loss, a feeling of, I'm missing something, but there's also incredible opportunity there. Okay. I know for myself that when I've had problems, when I've had loss, there's also amazing opportunity because we can find resources in ourselves that we didn't know that we had. Okay, so let me speak a little bit about breakups and death in specific. Okay, so I'll tell you another story. When I lived in Seattle many years ago, Bill Gates's best friend was dying of cancer. And they were Buddhists, and they asked me to come and, help with some counseling. So the father is dying of cancer. I would say he was probably in his mid-30s, late 30s, like that. They had 3 young children, all under the age of 10. And he's dying, and she's going to be a widow. Okay. Now, usually in this kind of situation, everybody would just be in turmoil and sobbing and crying and, like that. But they were an incredible family. What he did, the father, is he wrote letters to each of his children that they could read when they became, I forget if it was 18 or 21. But what he did is he wrote down everything he learned from life, all of his advice to his children, what he learned about how to live a good life. Yeah, incredible. This is how he spent his time as he was getting sicker and sicker. He was dying from cancer. And so he wrote these beautiful letters to his children, that they were to keep and then read when they were older. Okay. And then they kept the house very normal. Yeah. They did the usual things that they did. Dad was sick sometimes. He couldn't do some of the usual things. But the kids went to school. In the summer, they went swimming. They went out playing. They didn't focus on, oh, the world is falling apart. They just, went about their lives and really connecting with each other and appreciating each other. When he died, there was a memorial service. They asked me to lead the memorial service. And this was one of the most amazing experiences I've had in my life. Because usually memorial services, people are, upset. But the wife, the widow, she got up, and when she was talking to everybody, and it was a huge group of people, and she said, her husband's name was John, and she said, John, you gave me so much love. We shared so much love together, and you're not here. I'm not going to stop loving you, but the love you gave me, I am now going to give to other people. Because I realized that love is not a fixed commodity, that when I give it to one person, then I don't have enough love to give to other people. And she started talking about just spreading her love to everybody else in her life, to the world, to society. And here she was, her husband just died, and her face was beaming. She was so joyful. Because she was celebrating the love they shared. She saw that it wasn't going to disappear. In fact, it was increasing, and she could share that with others. Okay. For me, this was an incredible thing to observe, because what it showed me is, depending on how we think, on how we direct our thoughts, when we lose things, we can feel miserable, or we can share that love. And really see that love is not a fixed commodity. There's so much there. Okay. And to remember that love and attachment are very different. Attachment is when we're needing something, wanting something from someone. A love is just wishing them well, wanting them to have happiness in its causes. And the more we think about that, the happier we become too. And also, when you experience loss, okay, there's a hole in your life, but then you realize that you can meet some of your own needs. Yeah, that there's a way to take care of yourself where you fill that hole in your life with the Dharma practice, with your virtuous thoughts, with your optimism and your upbeat about life. Yeah. And if you do that, then the experience of loss becomes something in which you discover that you have resources within you that you didn't know that you had. Okay. So it's a whole different way of looking at impermanence. But if you try this, if you play with it, yeah, your attitude can change. Okay, so we're all going to experience loss. There's no way around that, is there? Yeah. Do you know anybody in the world who's never experienced loss? Yeah, it's part of our life, but we can make it something very meaningful at the same time. Yeah. And also when we experience loss, we tend to focus on what I have lost. But when somebody dies, they're the one who has died. They're the ones who need our prayers and our good wishes and our aspirations. So instead of focusing on they're not going to be here, we send them off with love. Yeah, we say wherever you're going to be reborn, yeah, or if there's a breakup in a relationship, whatever you're going to do in your life, may you be happy. Yeah, may you, when you go on to whatever you're doing in your life, or you're going on to the next life, may you call up your loving, compassionate heart and go on with that. May you meet the Buddha's teachings and follow the Dharma path. Yeah. And learn how to have a happy mind and how to have a meaningful life. So you just send these virtuous aspirations to whoever it was that you lost. Yeah. Sometimes you lose your job. Yeah. When you lose your job, especially because of the pandemic, then you feel, oh no, what's going to happen? Let me tell you, sometimes losing your job is the best thing that can happen to you, because it makes you really stop and think about what is important in my life. And, you may see, oh, actually, I'm just going to work doing this again and again and again and again. And it's not something that brings joy and meaning to me in my life. I want to change careers. I want to do something else. I want to learn something else, So even, you have the loss of losing your job. Then there's you look at what else you can do with your time and your energy. Okay. And that has a very transformative effect on how you feel and who you are and what you can give to the rest of the world. So just a little bit about the prison work, and then we'll do the King of Prayers. I correspond with people. We've also set it up so, people can write us and ask us for Dharma books. We send Dharma books. At the Abbey, the monastery where I live, every winter we do a retreat, a 3-month retreat. And we have something called the Retreat from Afar. And this is open for all the people who don't live at the Abbey. So people like you, people who are incarcerated, anybody who wants to join. And what you do is like this year, our retreat is on the Medicine Buddha and the Lamrim. And so we do, many sessions of the practice every day. But we say, you're doing the retreat from afar. You have your life and everything to take care of. You're not doing, to retreat all day like we are. So do one session of the medicine practice every day, Medicine Buddha practice every day. Send us a picture. We put a picture of you in our dining room to remind us that you're doing the retreat with us. Yeah, you're doing one session a day. We're doing many, but you're doing the retreat with us. And then every week we post some teachings, Dharma teachings or teachings specifically about the Medicine Buddha practice. So everybody receives teachings every week. Yeah. And then people do that for 3 months, doing the retreat from afar with us. And we open it to inmates. And we usually have, it depends, each year it's different, but often we can have like 300 people or even more. Do you remember? Sometimes, yeah, usually about 300. Usually about half those people, a third to a half of those people are people who are in prison. And we send them the Medicine Buddha practice. We send them the weekly teachings, and they do the retreat with us. And they sometimes will write us about their experiences doing the retreat. And it's just incredible. One man wrote us, and he said, I'm doing the retreat on my bed, but I live in a dormitory with 300 other people. And some of them are laughing, and some of them are screaming, and some of them are sleeping, and it's not a quiet place. And my bed is the upper bunk. And right in front of me is a light bulb. Not even with a light shade, but just the light bulb. And he said, I'm doing the retreat and I feel so good. Yeah. Now, can you imagine trying to be, if we hear even a little bit of noise when we're trying to meditate, we get really upset. He's sitting there in a noisy room with a light bulb in front of his face. And he's doing the practice every day. It's astounding, So when the inmates sometimes write us about their practice, I read their letters to the people here. So the people here can see what good conditions they have to meditate in and don't complain. Yeah. So, we do these kinds of things and try and bring the incarcerated people in. I also do prison visits. I go to the prisons. Some prisons have, meditation groups, Buddhist groups, and I'll speak there. Other times it's, just a random talk. Of course, in COVID, during COVID, I haven't been able to go. But I travel around to different places and teach, and I'll try to do prison visits whenever I can there. And I think the number one thing that is very important is whether you're with the prisoners in person or writing, is you treat them just like everybody else. You're respectful. You're kind. You're interested in them. You don't treat them like horrible things. Yeah. Because usually these people, definitely in prison is not a happy place. Okay. The inmates often don't respect each other. The guards and the staff don't respect the inmates. They're always told, you have to do this, you can't do that. And it's, they often feel oppressed and beaten down. When you write a letter that is just friendly, respectful, ask them how their life is, what they're thinking about, what things in Dharma intrigue them, what they would like to learn so that you could send them material. They're so amazed, like, wow, somebody's just being respectful and kind to me. Yeah. And I didn't realize that I was doing this, and I didn't realize how important it was until one time, one of my friends who does prison work, I went with him to the group that he worked with in a particular prison. And we had a discussion group, okay? So I talked for a little while, then I opened it up for discussion. And I asked the guys, well, what do you think about this? Share your thoughts. And so they began to speak up and share their thoughts. And we had a really interesting discussion. And when we left, I commented to my friend, boy, that group was really special. They were talkative, they were engaged, they were, really participating and happy. And my friend said, well, that's because you treated them with respect. And I never even thought about it. It's like, you just treat everybody the same. You treat people with respect. They're a human being. Yeah. And they're worthy of respect. And they are not the worst thing they did in their life. Okay. Just like I don't want to be known for the worst thing I've done in my life. Yeah. If you think of the worst things you've done in your life, do you want people to only see you as the person who did that? No, there's a whole different side to you. There's so many sides of you. Well, similarly with these people who are incarcerated. And it's really interesting when you get to know them. Ask them, where did you grow up? How did you grow up? Tell me about your life. And you will learn so much. Yeah. Sometimes you can ask them about current events. Okay. Like in the US, racism is a really big topic. It comes up in the news a lot. And there's one man that I write to who is African American. And he and I discuss race very openly. And I'll ask him, or he'll ask me, there was this court decision, or there was this, something happened, what do you think about this? And we'll talk about, race relations. And then we'll talk about them in terms of the Dharma. How do we bring respect into race relations? How do we notice whatever any prejudice we may have because of how we were raised? How do we overcome our own prejudice? How do we deal with people who are prejudiced against us? Yeah, you can have these incredible discussions with people. Yeah. Sometimes I find myself, I'm writing to people who are sex offenders, even from pedophilia, or they've raped somebody. And I'll ask them, what's wrong? The cat is meowing.
She's just sitting and meowing. Nothing's happening.
Nothing's happening. She's meowing. Okay.
She's playing with the fake mouse.
Okay. She wants some attention. My cat is saying, pay attention to me. She's making some noise. Anyway, so, with the guys who are sex offenders, they'll be in sometimes a sex offender program. and I'll say, tell me about what you do in the program. What are they teaching you in the program? And it's really interesting for me to learn about what happens, how they guide these people in sex offending programs. And then the guys will sometimes tell me about how the Dharma has helped them, with their anger, with their jealousy or whatever. So it's really, you learn so much, really. I mean, the guys that I work with, they teach me much more than I teach them. So very worthwhile. Yeah. Sometimes people say to me, aren't you afraid to go into a prison? No, I'm not afraid at all. They're not going to hurt me. They're so happy that somebody from the outside cares about them enough to come in as a volunteer and lead a session. They're very grateful for that. Yeah. Okay. So let's do the prayers of aspiration, do our dedication, and then we'll do the King of Prayers as a way to dedicate all the merit that we've created this whole weekend. So rejoice at the merit you've created as an individual. Give yourself a pat on the back. You did something really good this weekend. Yeah. So everybody, good. And rejoice what you did. Rejoice at what everybody here did. I mean, imagine we haven't been able to be in person, but we've been together with an amazing group of people, all of whom want to do something meaningful in their lives. Every person here wants to create love and compassion in their lives and share it with the world. What an incredible thing that we have to have spent a weekend together with each other. Yeah, with people who have the same aspirations we do. This is incredible. So rejoice at our own merit, at the merit that everybody else has created here. And then also think of all the goodness in the world and rejoice at that too. And then we take all of that merit and we're going to send it out into the universe